And then, yes, it's all you, lovely. It's all on you. But no, we're so grateful for you to share this, because I think particularly the choice you've had and what you're sharing about that heart and head discussion and decision is so relevant to so many.
I don't think people think well enough about how career fits into their lives.
Yes.
You know, and that's sort of the key point I want to get away. And I'd like it's like people to feel a little bit motivated that they can do things.
I think everybody needs a little bit of that right now. I just, I love the event. I mean, I saw there's a number of people, obviously, that we've had mutual connections with previously. But that interrelationship is one of the great things about New Zealand. And
isn't it? It's built on networks.
I'm writing a piece for Business Desk New Zealand, and it's going to print next week. And I caught up with somebody who's in lobbying, Holly from RC, and we were talking about kind of our sharing, podcasting and different stuff, and got onto this whole point of print, and found out that we're writing for the same new business section for Business Desk. And we hadn't seen each other in a couple of years, and although she employed my nephew through a recommendation of mine, which was great. But it was one of those things like, of course we both are. This is getting Māori woman, getting some information around, what can hopefully help some small and medium enterprises and their endeavours.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
We have hit 12:29. I'm going to start letting people in, and people might join as we progress, but I am going to start everybody up. Wonderful. Okay. Well, we are a minute behind schedule, so we will jump right on in, and I will keep admitting people as they enter. It's a very popular lady that we have here today with us, and thank you. Today we have Fiona, a GM of Cards and Payments from Kiwibank, and you're joining us for this Her Career Leader-Led Conversations Over Coffee event. So honoured to have you to share this time together. I think really, it's about your experiences, as we said, and sharing that with our millennial entrepreneurs thriving in their 9-to-5 Facebook hub, but also we open these for our wider network. So Fiona, you've had a varied and interesting career. While in your early yes, you have, and I can't wait to dig more into that. While your early career focused in customer strategy, insight, and analytics across a range of service industries, including telecommunications, energy, and the public sector, your later career has seen you move into financial services, where you've held a range of roles at BNZ before heading across to Tasman to launch Qantas Money. So a very huge step there. We also have you back in New Zealand since 2019, now leading the cards and payments area at Kiwibank, a role which is complemented by a directorship at Payments New Zealand. You're on the board of trustees for Estuary Arts Charitable Trust, aligned to your personal passion for the arts, which I know we'll hear more about as well. So you've provided me with a sneak peek of your sharing, which focuses on strength, courage, and understanding. So very cleverly and entertainingly wrapped up into the significance of today's date, the 14th of July. As usual, for everybody on the call, last housekeeping mention, please use the chat function for any questions. Ensure that your video remains off. And with that, we'll kick off. Fiona, thank you again for being here. I'll pass over to you and would love you to start with the key takeaways I hope you'll leave us with from your sharing across your career.
Hey, thanks so much, everyone, for having me. It's a privilege being able to speak to you and you making the time. So thank you. And I'd like to welcome you to the Kiwibank offices. I'm talking into a mobile phone, so it's a little bit difficult for me. But I just want to showcase this beautiful background we've got. We've got them all through our offices, and that's Kiwibank recognising New Zealand artists, and that's some of Flock's work. So anyway, to kick off, happy Bastille Day, 14th of July. So, that's the anniversary of the storming of the Bastille prison, and that was a flashpoint which led to the French Revolution and reform in France. And I think it's applicable to this conversation today on women and their careers. So if you think about the attitudes that those revolutionaries and reformists would have needed to have, they would have needed to back themselves. They would have had to have a hell of a lot of courage. And they really wanted to progress and grow and create a better environment, both for themselves and their families. So I think it's actually quite a nice parallel today to be having a chat, Rosie, with women.
I love that alignment you made.
So shall I kick a bit about me? So I'm Fiona, and this is the way I describe myself. I'm a wife to a very gorgeous husband. I'm a daughter. I'm a sister to 4 brothers. Explains a bit. I'm an aunt to 5 amazing young adults, and to me, family's everything. I'm a crazy creative, so I play the piano. During the weekend, I, on a whim, bought a piano accordion, as you do. I love photography, I love art, and this is fast becoming a passion for me, an obsession really. And I specialise in contemporary mixed media, and at the moment I'm working on a series on stylish 60s fashion icons, because in my mind's eye, that's me. And onto my professional side, as Rosie mentioned, I'm the GM of Cards and Payments at Kiwibank. So it's a role I jump out of bed for every morning, most mornings. I love working for a brand that is genuinely interested in developing this beautiful country we live in. And I love working alongside some really talented colleagues who I enjoy working with and challenge me every day. So I thought I'd talk through my career, give you some insights along the way, and some of the stories and experiences which have really helped me to grow where I am right now. So onto my career story. So, I think of a career as a destination, so as a journey as opposed to a destination. And your career is made up of a whole lot of choices. So the first choice I had to make was, did I pursue, it was when I was at university, do I pursue my love of arts, or do I pursue my love of intellectual and commerce? And the head won over the heart. I did economics and finance, and entered the workforce when New Zealand was still reeling from Black Monday, which was the 1987 stock market crash. And, I was really grateful to land a job, and grateful to have landed a job which allowed me to develop on my skills that I've learned at university. And it's actually interesting now thinking where we are, all these decades later, the impact that COVID's had, and I still feel that gratitude for having a great career and a great company to be working for. So I landed a job at Statistics New Zealand, working on the business and economic surveys, and I didn't love it, but I did my time in public sector, so I know that it's not for me. But then I quickly moved into the commercial sector, and I discovered it wasn't so much financial analysis that I was drawn to, it was customer insights and what makes customers tick and how they behave. So when I think about my career, I describe it in chapters. And so chapter 1, I'm calling this Preparing for Battle. I'm clearly not a writer.
No, it's great.
For me,
I love it.
the first chapter was so for me, the first chapter was becoming an expert in analytics and customer insight and customer strategy and customer experience. And that was, as Rosie mentioned, across a range of industries. I started in the government sector, then I moved to energy. I did a stint in a marketing agency when email marketing was just coming out, and then telcos. You know, and the way I've thought about each of those roles, and what challenged my move was really thinking about the specific skill sets I was trying to develop. You know, I wanted to demonstrate that I could be adaptive and move across industries. But I was also really deliberate, focusing on the skills that I wanted to develop. So, you know, back to the companies I talked about, consulting was a big one for me, which is why I was working in an agency. People leadership, and that was a massive thing I wanted to start to build some bench strength in. And then when I was at Telecom, I really wanted to look at to what degree I could help influence a strategic shift. And for Telecom, that was moving more from a product-centric organisation at the time to a customer one. But by my mid-30s, you know, career was going really well, but I had a crossroads, you know, and I'd become a deep subject matter expert, and I was, you know, honestly afraid I'd be pigeonholed. And I was also a little bit frustrated that, you know, I was helping other people with their career decision, with their decisions, as opposed to taking the accountability for making the decisions myself. So around about that same time, I had one of those life-changing moments, and it was one of the hardest things I've had to go through my whole life. And my husband was diagnosed with grade 4 brain tumours, and the prognosis was not favourable. And actually, when we went into the surgeon's office after he'd had his surgery, I hadn't cottoned on to why there was a social worker in there with us. But the surgeon gave us the devastating news, and while he did it, he was actually smiling from ear to ear. So clearly that surgeon was better behind a knife rather than in front of a patient. But what it did for me, it had a fundamental impact not only on my life, but also on my career. So it did a couple of things. It made me reprioritise around Jason, and it took 2 to 3 years, but we actually got him all clear. But after that, we both made the decision that he'd support me going hard on my career, because he couldn't hold the sort of work that he used to. But it also made me realise something else, and it made me realise that people can take terrible news, but you've got to be honest, and you've got to be respectful about how you deliver it. And so, you know, I think about that example every time I go into a difficult conversation with someone, you know, and I go into it thinking, I think about that moment, and I know as long as I'm fair and upfront with that person, they'll actually cope with it. You know, it's just, you've just got to really think about how you deliver it. So that was chapter 1 for me, preparing for battle, and that for me was really having a winning mindset. So again, as I talked through, focusing on building your resilience, I spent that time building the toolkit of the skills which would help me be more effective in my role and in my life, and just really getting myself match fit for battle. So chapter 2. Now, this one I've entitled Know Your Strengths. So, as I said, this was a career pivot for me, and I moved into banking, and really, as I said, I was just looking to give my career a real nudge, and banking sector had always attracted me. You know, I'd studied how money works at university. They're very complex, big businesses. They're highly commercial, and you know, in the banking sector, there's loads of growth development opportunities. So, you know, there's a plug for banking. I think the way I made the move, though, was leveraging my expertise in customer strategy and analytics. And I made a sideways move at a relatively senior level. And that was, as Rosie said, that was at BNZ. That was my first role into BNZ. But I did that in a way which would give me exposure to the executive in an area that I was really competent in. So, you know, wanting to move and growing your career up senior levels, it is important that you get noticed and you think about that sort of exposure. Mm-hmm. So it worked pretty well for me. And I was in the leadership team of the business bank pretty quickly. And the role I was looking after was the business segment, which was a very large P&L. And I turned up to my first leadership team meeting and walked into a room of 15 to 20 guys. They were highly competent men who'd spent 20 plus years in banking. And, you know, I was pretty intimidated. And I really started questioning myself. And the turning point for me came from a comment that one of my female colleagues made to me. I was questioning myself, and she pulled me aside. She gave me a real dressing down, and she said, "I don't want to hear you talk like that again." So I considered myself dressed down. But what happened as a result of this, I started voicing my views and, you know, challenging respectfully. And I recognised that my perspective was changing the conversation, and that imposter syndrome that so many of us have, it started to subside. And the CEO at the time, who he still remains one of my role model leaders, he was coaching me. And after a day, he spent a day tailing me, following me in my meetings and things. And then we had our coaching session at the end of it. And I talked to him about, you know, needing to get stronger at functional expertise because, you know, the complexity of the areas I was looking at. And he said to me, all you have to do is hold your head high. So that's another point that's resonated and stuck with me. So after that, I went on to run business banking operations function. I played a lead role in the transformation and set up our SME proposition, and eventually went on to run the bank-wide product function. Wow. So just a couple of call-outs from that chapter of my story. To know your strengths, you need to back yourself. You've got to have a voice, and you've got to have the courage to say what you think. So shall I go on to chapter 3, Rosie?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm loving the story. There's a couple of pieces that really resonate with me. This piece around terrible news and that transferable knowledge that people are resilient, but the way that you talked about it also shows a respect of dignity for the other person that I think can be lacking, which is where the disconnect happens, and others don't receive the news quite so well. And your sideways step with strategy, people who are talking a lot about a potential pivot within their career. I'd like to dig a little bit more even into that whole, as you were going through that thought process, what did you feel? Because it was... Oh,
the light's gone out. Hang on a minute.
Move.
Sorry, Rosie.
That's all right. It is a very big decision to take either a sideways or even, I've just been speaking with somebody on my podcast, Sally from Business Filter, about taking a potential down step to go up and align more to that type of lack of pigeonholing or where you want to see your long-term career. So just a little more maybe around those considerations at pivot time. I know a lot of our networks ask about that.
I actually think it's going back to the point I was making about your career being a destination, you know, not a journey. And it's a marathon, not a sprint. And, you know, a lot of people, and I was like this early on in my career, I thought, I want to get ahead, you know, and it was just like step up, step up, step up. But actually, if you think about having a growth mindset, sort of my frame of reference is it's not where in the organisation I sit, it's am I continuing to learn and to grow, and are the things I'm focusing on things that give me real energy. And you know, that's been what my frame of reference has been on those. Yeah,
cup fillers, right? So there's elements of your role that can definitely deplete, but if you have enough that you can be passionate about and gain energy from, then you're absolutely on the right track. I love the dressing down from your female colleague as well, because sometimes we need a little bit of a kick in the butt or shake of the shoulders to what are you doing to wake us up. So I'm so glad you shared that, and that it was, well, you were at leadership level. You know, you kind of, I think sometimes people misunderstand the fact that you reach a senior level and then you know, it's fine. You're making all the right decisions every day, but of course there are challenges. No.
Yeah.
So please, I would love to hear, we would love to hear more of your story.
Chapter 3. Okay, yes. Chapter 3 is called Have Courage, Take Risks. So this for me was that move that I talked about overseas, or Rosie talked about overseas, where I moved to Qantas. And it was moving to Qantas to set up a new fintech business called Qantas Money. I wanted multinational experience. I wanted to learn about developing a digital business. And actually, I just wanted to work overseas for a bit, try something different. And I'd always targeted an airline. So I'm a closet plane spotter, and I'm an obsessive traveller. So how good is it to work for one of Australia's most iconic brands? So the story behind the move, 6 months before I moved, I actually missed out on a role at the top table at the bank. And it caused me to realise how much I was defining my career, my life by my career. So I, after a bit of thinking and consultation with Jason, I resigned with no role to go to. And I flipped a coin to determine whether we go to Melbourne or Sydney, and Sydney won. Secured a house online, sight unseen, and I don't recommend that. Packed up my husband and my 2 cats, and we took 2 suitcases, and 2 days before I was due to leave New Zealand, I got a call from Qantas that I'd secured my dream role. And, you know, it ended up being the 3 most incredible years for us. The joint venture itself was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to be involved in building. And personally, you know, we were on a plane every weekend. And anywhere within 8 hours within Sydney was fair game. And my relationship with my husband just got better. And, you know, on reflection, I think what that experience taught me was to have courage and take some risks. And I came back with a whole range of new experiences and skills for my artillery. You know, and I think a big piece about your leadership and your career is, you know, leadership is a dance on taking risks. But if you don't take those risks, you'll be left wondering what if. So I'll just run through the last little, I saw a couple of questions flashing up, but I'll just run through the last little bit. The last chapter for me is where I am at the moment, and I've called it Understand Your Regiment. And I'm sure they didn't call them regiments in during the French Revolution. But
I get your drift, it's fine.
This will do, yeah. And if you're starting to think about your own revolution or reform, it starts with understanding yourself and the people you work with. And so my current chapter, as Rosie said, is I'm back again in New Zealand. Decision was motivated by an elderly mum and wanting to make sure she was my priority. You know, we live in this incredible country, and I wanted to work for a company that deeply believed in giving back to New Zealand, which Kiwibank does. So now I'm with Kiwibank, and that alignment with values has been really important to me. I've got a board directorship, as Rosie mentioned, with Payments New Zealand, and you know, I think payments in New Zealand is an area that needs challenging. That's why I'm spending time in it. And I finally understood what work-life balance means, and I'm really pursuing my love of art. You know, I've got a lot of exhibitions going on at the moment, and as Rosie mentioned, I'm a volunteer board on a not-for-profit for a charitable trust. So I think, you know, I've realised the importance of surrounding myself with good people and giving up your skills and learning from those who've got different skills from you. So at Kiwibank, I've got the opportunity to work with some incredible women, and, you know, it's really important to focus on what makes you unique, special, and leveraging what unique skills around you people have. So the last thought I wanted to leave you with is a concept called your superpower. So everyone has a superpower. So when I think about those women I just talked about at Kiwibank, I'd say one of them whose superpower is being calm. And so she just diffuses tension. No matter what's being said, she diffuses tension. Another one is just this extraordinary executor. She just gets stuff done. I don't know how she does it, but she gets stuff done. And another one I've described her superpower is inclusive. And so she's incredibly warm, and she knows how to make people feel they are important and part of something. So I reach out to those women when I need their superpowers, because I haven't got all those skills. And regardless of whether it's their role or not, they'll help me, and vice versa, you know. And I describe mine. Be interested to see what these women would say mine was, but this is how I describe mine. For me, it's being honest, and you know, being honest with someone is the best way to show you care and respect them. So I think your superpower is key to unlocking your career. Surround yourself with really good networks, and think about what superpowers they bring. Don't be afraid to lean into your networks for your colleagues. They have a special skill, and you know you could use it. And give, because if you give, you'll get back in return. So that's what I think makes our regiment great. So in turn, I was just going to leave you with one thought. I wanted to leave you, I wanted you to reflect on what your superpower is, what makes you unique, and what you're doing to focus on it. Because that's the one thing that makes you stand out. So looking forward on to chapter 7 or 8, even though I finished at 4 because I'm not started 5 yet, but chapter 7 or 8, I haven't written it yet. And maybe, just maybe, we'll buy a chateau in the south of France and turn it into a business. So you got to have dreams. Happy Bastille Day, everyone.
Oh my God, Fiona, that was absolutely brilliant. I just have this imagery of you being on that TV show. I can't remember what it's called, but Chateau something, and they all do the renovations. And I would love to watch it. Yes, I cannot wait to see you on there. Let's jump to the questions. I know one was a comment, so thank you, Chris, for the link to imposter syndrome. We will add that to the notes in the article that is created from this piece. Ying was asking, what are the qualities do you think are important for a female leader to demonstrate in the banking industry?
I think, back to what I was saying, Ying, about being honest, being fair, being firm, and standing your ground. I think, that's a really important qualities that have stood me in good stead. I think being curious, and you look at banking, and there are a lot of people still in banking who have been in banking for a long period of time, and you look at some of the reforms and what's coming through and what customer expectations are and when innovation will go to. And I think being curious and always asking the question, what if? And how else could we think about this? And just having a really, really curious mindset would be the second thing.
I love that. I know we're close. Do you find for us to run to maybe 105, just a little bit over, Fiona, in terms of time frame? If you
let me just double check. I should know exactly what I'm doing after today's vote.
Because if not, we will take the questions and maybe answer them offline. But I'm just obviously aware that we usually run this to 1.
Cool. Yeah, I can stay on for a few more minutes, thanks.
Yeah. Great, perfect. I missed Sam's question as well. She asked, how did you find your role model? I'm presuming that's from BNZ. Did you seek him out, or did he offer to mentor you?
He was actually, Sam, he was the CEO of BNZ. I will mention his name because I thought he was pretty an exceptional human being, and his name was Andrew Thorburn, and he was a role model to a number of people in the organisation. And so when you've got a leader, and I look at my leader now at Kiwibank, Steve Yurkovich is another guy who's so driven by values. That stuff that just draws me to people. And I think also in the role that I was at, I just naturally got the exposure to him. But I think, it's just, for me, I'm always looking at who's doing stuff well and who's doing stuff maybe not so well, and trying to think how I can learn and be better from it. And everyone, I think New Zealand is an incredibly networked and generous country in terms of people making themselves available. So like when you see someone who's got those skills, just reach out to them, and chances are they'll make time for you.
Look at you, you're here today being generous with your time with us. I would love to back that comment up about Steve. I know that he does a lot of work with We Are Manaaki. I've done some work with them, and in one of my podcast episodes highlighted their Digital Doers Academy. He works alongside small business, and I know that he's very, very passionate about Kiwis being the best that they can and supporting this community that we have, that we're lucky enough to have. So a couple more. We have Andrew asking, well, he's hoping you're well, which is great. And given the opportunities that have come with changing careers, how do you build authority or credibility in a new industry when they might be new to you?
Well, I think it's really thinking about the questions you ask. I mean, you move into, like when I moved into the senior business role that I referred to, I've never written a lending deal, and I still haven't, but I think really spending time education yourself. I mean, it's a vertical learning curve, it was, and I invested a lot of time into it. I surrounded myself with people who call me on when I was doing things, right or wrong, just to help coach me. But again, I still think it's, moving careers or roles. I think sort of more senior you get, aptitude is a given. You'll learn the technical pieces, and if you've got to a certain level, you've got certain background, you just got to back yourself on it. I think what the important piece is the attitude, and it's the attitude of how you approach it.
Yeah, absolutely. A bit of shameless self-promotion. My podcast released this week also covers some items on personal branding, and my latest pivot, spending a year in this recruitment business, and now I'm writing articles for Business Desk, as I mentioned, and I've been quoted by News Hub, and I've been seen as a year in, a leader in this industry, but that comes with the 20 years prior of experience that I'm bringing to this. So you have values that you just need to understand is transferable, and ensure that, as you say, Fiona, that you back yourself in those techniques. Really nice words from Kim, just saying that a lot of what you said has resonated with her. Given that we're just over 1 o'clock, I might leave it there, Fiona. Really, thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure meeting you a few months ago, and so thrilled that you created this space to share your journey with us. So many great takeaways for everybody. And I can't wait to see you again soon.
Thanks so much, everyone, and have a good afternoon. Have your best deal day.
Have your best deal day.
Yeah. Bye-bye.